Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of the first time user guide for Blender. In this video, we'll explore edit mode, learn some basic 3D modeling terminology, and we'll build a simple chair along the way. Editor's note, there's a lot of shortcuts in this video, so I've included a shortcut cheat sheet which you can screenshot. I'll display that on screen right now. Edit mode is one of the two main ways to create 3D models in Blender. The other is sculpt mode, which we'll cover in the next video. Before we begin, let's quickly talk about what a mesh is. Almost everything you add to your scene is an object. A cube, a sphere, a camera, and a light are all separate objects. Mesh objects, like this cube, are built from 3 basic components. Let's quickly hop into edit mode, which you can do by pressing Tab or holding Ctrl and Tab and hovering your cursor over the edit mode. Mesh objects, like this cube, are built from 3 basic components. Vertices, which are these black points in space. We've got edges, which are the lines connecting these points. And then you've got faces, which are flat surfaces created by connected edges. Maybe you'll have heard of the term triangles or tris and polygons. Let me quickly explain what those are. A tri is simply a face with 3 vertices. These are commonly used in game engines because every 3D model is ultimately converted into triangles. A polygon, or a poly, is any face with 3 or more vertices. In Blender, most modeling is done using quads, faces with 4 vertices, as you can see here, because they're easier to edit and work better for subdivision and animation. Together, vertices, edges, and faces form the shape of your model. In edit mode, you can select what you want to edit, so a vertex, an edge, or a face, by pressing the 1, 2, and 3 buttons. 1 is for vertices, 2 is for edges, and 3 is for faces. You can also see the top left of the 3D viewport in edit mode, where you can select vertex mode, edge mode, and face mode manually here in the top left. Those correspond with the 3 numbers. I'm going to turn the default cube into a chair. I think that will be useful for explaining the shortcuts that we'll need along the way. So in order to move this bottom face up, we can select it by first pressing 3 to go into face selection mode, then left clicking the face and pressing G, which will now indicate that we have grabbed this face. If you then press Z, we will lock the axis in the Z direction, and now we can slide this face up to create the basic seat shape. In order to create an inset, we can press I and then drag our mouse inwards and left clicking. This will create a new edge loop inside of our selection. In order to create more loop cuts, we can press Ctrl and R and scroll our mouse wheel up to increase the segments of our loop cuts. Let's now select a few of these new corners that we have created by making our loop cuts. And to create our legs of the chair, we can press E to extrude them again. Let's also grab the backrest of the chair here and press E to extrude that upwards as well. Now let me move the entire object up in object mode, and let's swap back into edit mode. Let's make this shape a little bit more interesting. If we select the 2 edges of the backrest, we can press Ctrl and B to create a chamfer. And if we want to increase these segments, we can once again scroll our mouse wheel to increase these segments of our chair, and then left click to confirm. We've got a nice, interesting looking chair here. Now, if we want to cut or make any custom cuts in our model, we can do that by pressing K, which will bring up the knife icon on our cursor. And if we can now click and drag anywhere on the model to create our cuts. And we can also confirm these by pressing Enter, which will make the cuts into real geometry. If we want to delete anything, we can select whatever it is that we want to delete, the vertex, the edge, or the face, and pressing X, which will bring up a host of options. For example, if I just wanted to delete the faces but leave all of the vertices intact, we can now look into our model after we have deleted only the face. If we wanted to delete the vertex exclusively, we can do that as well from this menu, and we can also, of course, delete the edges. Now, this has really messed up our geometry, so let's try to repair it without undoing our steps. If we wanted to fill the openings between edges, we can select the edges and press F, which will now fix the geometry that we have deleted. The same over here. You can press F to fill this gap. And if you want to fix this corner, which is a little bit more tricky to do, we can press E after selecting the vertex and bringing up this vertex a little bit in line with the other one. We can also see that the Vertex Transforms have values in the top right in our sidebar. And I see that it's almost at 1 meter. So I can just turn this into a 1 by selecting the Z axis here and then inserting a 1 and pressing enter. This will bring it up to height with the vertex over here. And I can now select this corner and this vertex, press F to fill in this edge. I can select the other corner and pressing F. And as you can see, we now have the geometry back that we need to fill this gap. Let's also fill in the front. And now we're back where we were. It's also possible to merge vertices together. If we select, for example, these vertices and then press M, we get a couple of merging options. If we want to merge at center, we can select that. And as you see, it will now take the median of all of these vertices and merge them at the center. Let's do the same at the other side. And if we now want to make this lopsided cut the same on both sides, we can select both vertices, press S and Z in order to align them in the Z axes. As you can see, the same shortcuts that we learned in object mode, we can also apply in edit mode when it comes to moving, scaling, and rotating. If we want to select all connected geometry, we can press L, which will show you all of the geometry that is selected. If I wanted to, for example, separate this chair leg from the chair, I could create a bunch of loop cuts here. Let's make 3. Then press S and Z to scale them closer together. I can then select the middle loop cut with Alt and left click. And then when I press X to delete the vertices, this will separate it from our mesh. If we then press L, you'll see that only the selected and connected geometry is highlighted. Now, if we wanted to join this back together, we can simply select the loop cut by pressing Alt and left click, selecting the other loop cut by pressing Shift and Alt and left click, and then pressing F. Both of these are now filled up. If we want to now bridge these edge loops back together, we can bring up the edge shortcut menu by pressing Ctrl and E, and then select Bridge Edge Loops, which will, as it says on the tin, bridge the edge loops. The exact same thing can be done for faces by pressing Ctrl and F, which will bring up the shortcut face menu, and also for vertices by pressing Ctrl and V. So Ctrl and E for edges, Ctrl and F for faces, Ctrl and V for vertices. If we then want to dissolve these edges, we can select them both by Alt and left clicking and Shift and Alt and left click, pressing X and click Dissolve Edges. And now we have our original geometry back. If we instead wanted to separate the selected geometry into a new object, we can also do that. For example, if we just remake the separated legs, which we had before, we can now press L on this selected leg, press P, and then press Selection, which will now have turned the individual parts into 2 separate object meshes. This marks the end of the edit mode section. You've now learned how to do all of the basic mesh editing shortcuts, and you know everything you need to know to create basic meshes. In the next video, we will explore the sculpting mode.